Hey, what's up everybody? Brian Dean here, and in this video, I'm gonna show you some blog design strategies. So these are basically ways that you can get more out of your blog and your blog content by tapping into a few very simple but very powerful design strategies. So let's just dive right in. The first one I wanna show you is to include a sign-up form on your homepage. And in fact, you can make your entire homepage a sign-up form. To be clear, we talk all about building your email list, and I show you exactly how to set all this up in a later module. But for now, one thing you can try is adding a form to the above the fold area on your homepage. So for example, at Animals, which is a content marketing site, they have a really nice looking, in my opinion, above the fold area that pitches their newsletter and makes you want to sign up. I have something similar to that on the Backlinko homepage, and it converts really well. Like I said, we'll cover everything you need to know about building your email list in Module 4, including details on how to set this up. But in the meantime, you can just add a form and a call to action on your blog's homepage if you don't have it, and that can increase your signups quite a bit because most blogs have, a blog feed on their homepage. I used to have that, and I can tell you from experience that this converts a lot better. One thing that actually convinced me to try this was whenever I went to a social media site signed out, even something like Twitter, which is more open, you can just see tweets, you don't need to be friends with anybody. It's a very closed homepage, right? You basically have to sign up if you want to get access to the content. So I realized that your blog can do something similar. They can still get access to the content if they want, if they dig around for the actual blog page, but it's basically sign up or get out. So if you're comfortable doing that, it's something worth trying. You can also do a combination like Animals does. So the entire above the fold area, almost perfectly, is the sign up form. And then you can scroll down and get access to the blog content, which is like a best of both worlds situation. Speaking of the blog page, so if that's a little too extreme for you, or if you have like a /blog or / whatever, or a subdomain blog.yoursite.com, and that's where your content is, I also recommend putting a form above the fold there. It doesn't have to be as extreme, as big as on your homepage, because if someone went to your homepage, saw a big sign up form, go to your blog, see a giant sign up form, and you make it that hard for people to find your content, it probably does more harm than good, even though you can get some subscriptions from doing that. So I recommend this kind of like small form that's above the fold. It doesn't have a very strong pitch, just like sign up for traffic tips, but it's enough that if someone's interested, it makes it easy for them to sign up. Now let's get into the blog posts themselves. So those are just ways to get some email subscribers really quickly. Another thing you can do just to make your blog post more readable is to use big, clear font. This sounds so simple and it sounds like an obvious piece of advice, but I'm surprised at how many blogs that I visit where it's just hard to read. And in this day and age, as I like to say, hard to read equals won't read. So if your content isn't really easy to read, people are gonna go somewhere else and read something else. So this is from Groove HQ blog. You can see that they use really big serif font, which means they have, it's kind of hard to describe. Basically, the font is more detailed. It has these little nuances that make the characters easier to read. You don't necessarily have to use that sans serif fonts, as they're called. They're also pretty common and a little bit more modern. But anyway, the point is that the font is really big and easy to read. If you want another example, you can go to medium.com or quora.com. They have both put a lot of time and effort into measuring readability of different fonts, and in my opinion, the fonts look really nice and are easy to read. Now, speaking of fonts, it's one thing to have it easy to read. Big is good, contrast is good, so black on white's always better than, black on gray or black on red or whatever. You also want to just try big fonts. Big fonts just are so easy to read, and they don't necessarily look bad because so many sites are doing it. It doesn't have this jumbo look that it might have used to. So if you look at NerdWallet, you can see that the headline here is just massive, right? This is probably like 24-point font or something crazy like that, but it actually looks good. And if you go to their subheaders, it's the same story. These are giant subheaders. Their font of their body font isn't that big, but it's clear and nice, I think. But the subheaders are huge because they know that most people reading content are skimmers, right? Most people don't necessarily read every single word of a post, but they can skim, get the bit points from the subheaders, and then read each one if they want to learn more. Moving on, we have a tip that I'm trying to put more into Backlinko's design. And in fact, we're working on a redesign now that will put this into practice, not as extreme as this. And that lesson is to use a simple design. The less you have on your blog, the better. Less is more. So buttons and banners and awards and mentions and all this stuff and links to your social media. It's just a distraction from your reader from the main stuff, which is your content, and then your secondary goal, which is to get them to sign up for the email list. In my opinion, James Clear at jamesclear.com has a fantastic blog design. It's as simple as you could imagine. It's basically black on white. Like, this is his blog. It all looks like this. And you might say that's too simple, and that's fine. You know, it's to each his own. It's your design. You should make it how you want it to look. But it's just a good lesson to keep in mind that maybe you don't want to go this extreme, but other things you can take away from your blog that would still make it look good and help people focus on the content more, like maybe removing stuff from your sidebar or moving the sidebar altogether. This is stuff that we're exploring right now. The next strategy is to include lots of visuals and screenshots inside of your post. Now, depending on your niche, screenshots might not make sense, but you do want to include visuals whenever possible. And I would recommend actually using more than you might think is normal. So, you know, I've recently started adding more than we used to. We used to have maybe like 10 or 20 for posts. Now we have about 40 or 50. And the reason for that is just because people are just used to visual content now. You know, look at a platform like Instagram. People are used to learning from visuals, watching videos. Text is still big. There's a place for text for sure, but it needs to be supplemented with lots of visuals to help tell you a story and help illustrate important concepts. So, you know, we're an SEO blog, so it's a lot of screenshots of rankings and tools and things like that. But depending on your niche, you may have different types of screenshots. But the important thing is, you know, you can have a lot of text like here. There's nothing wrong with just having text for a while, but you also want to sprinkle in lots of screenshots and try to add a little bit more than you might expect, than you might be comfortable with at first. And if you're like us, you'll find the results are better. We're getting better time on site, more engagement, more of everything from adding more screenshots. In addition to screenshots, you can also get things, I don't really have a good name for them yet, like a cool name. So I call them custom visuals. And basically what they are visuals that we have a designer make that explain a concept. So for example, I could just explain skyscraper technique 1.0 and 2.0 in text, right? But I decided to make this simple little visual to compare the two side by side. It looks nice, it's cool, and it's just another visual you can add. And it doesn't, you know, it's not fancy or expensive or anything. You know, this is basically like an image, and a little table of text. So these are like tables and visuals and things can make your content better. And if it explains a concept that people find tricky, they'll actually use the visuals on their blog and link back to you, which is a nice bonus. So the next design strategy is to have a unique look and feel to your blog. So when I first started Backlinko, you know, I just basically looked at blogs that I liked and just sent them to designers and was like, create something like this. And there's nothing wrong with that if you're just getting started. But eventually, if you want your blog to really grow, I recommend getting a unique look and feel. Like Backlinko right now, I would say has a pretty unique look and feel. The colors, that layout, the design, there aren't any other blogs that really look like it. So it has that instant feel of something different. Help Scout, I should say, is a great example of that. I actually don't even like their design. You know, it's way too cartoony for me, and for B2B, I think it just looks silly. But it does have a unique feel. You know, this kind of image, you don't see it very often, and maybe that's why they do it, because it's so rare in their B2B space that it stands out. But it's very consistent, and it does look unique to their blog. So the next strategy is kind of related to the visuals we talked about earlier, but to use stock photos. And if you do use them, there are non-cheesy stock photo options out there. So, you know, a lot of industries, there aren't screenshots or necessarily opportunities to include a bunch of visuals, so they use stock photos. But the problem is they use really cheesy looking stock photos from like iStock Photo that just, you know what I'm talking about, cheesy stock photos. So if you go to a site like Healthline, in my opinion, they have beautiful stock photos that just look really cool and different. Like, look at these, like, images. They're stock photos, right? They didn't go to have someone take these, but they look cool. They don't look cheesy. And in fact, they're kind of beautiful. So I would recommend, if you do stock photos, spending a lot of time on making your stock photos beautiful and different and non-cheesy. There are tons of places to find stock photos. I don't have one in particular to recommend. It's more of a guideline that when you look at a stock photo, be like, does this look like something from like, iStock photos from 2005? Or does it look really modern like someone posted on Instagram? If so, you probably have a good stock photo. Last but not least, we have another look and feel that I kind of like. This one looks different than your usual blog layout. It's 3x3 instead of just single. It has also non-cheesy stock photos. This is from lattice.com, Lattice. I just think it looks unique. Like if you landed here, you're not going to mistake it for another blog. Almost at the end here, one more strategy I want to show you is to humanize your blog. So if you're a single person blog, it's pretty easy to humanize your blog, but you can really crank it up to 11 by putting your face all over the blog if you're the only author and it's just your blog. So Marie Forleo is a master at this. When you land on her site, not only does it look unique, but you can tell it's her site. Like it just has her everywhere. Every picture is of her. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not being a narcissist to do this. It's not saying you're self-absorbed. It's that if you want to stand out, you need to show yourself on your blog. It really is a great way and an easy way to help your blog stand out. You don't want to look like some big faceless blog. You want to look like a person is behind it, and Marie Forleo does a great job at that. Now, if you run a multi-author blog that has multiple people contributing, you can still do this to a certain extent, obviously not as much. But for example, at NerdWallet, and a lot of other blogs I've seen do this lately, instead of just like having the name or not even having the name for the blog post, they actually have a picture and an author link. You can go learn more about the person. And sometimes even in the sidebar, they'll have, this was by June Casagrande, I guess you'd say, and a little bio. She's been interested in personal finance since 2001, ... and you can learn more about her. Adds that little personal touch to your blog content. And as you can see here, you can do it even for a multi-author blog. So that's it for blog design strategies. Like I said, in module 4, we have more stuff on building your email list, but a lot of this stuff you can implement today. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it can make your blog better, easier to read, and convert more visitors into subscribers. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.